Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Flags Only. Today I am super excited to have Ella Lodewyk. Ella is currently at Duke University, class of 2027, so a rising senior. She is majoring in psychology, minoring in chemistry. She is a Reginaldo Howard Leadership Scholar. She's a research assistant. And oh yeah, by the way, she plays flag football for Duke. So Ella, thank you for hopping on the pod with me.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
So when I first started doing this podcast, and I still am, I'm like very excited about talking to folks like you. But I didn't realize how insecure it would make me about how little I do because I look at your resume and like everything I just read, and I don't know how you're possibly maintaining all of this, like how you're keeping pace with being a student athlete and everything. So before I get into like how you got to flag, how do you do it? What are the tips? How do I keep track of everything? I complain about not having enough free time always, so maybe I shouldn't complain as much.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like right now the biggest thing for me is like I plan out every single thing I do on my Google Calendar. Like I block out when I'm eating lunch, when I'm eating dinner, when I'm in the lab, when I have practice. Like I'm very like strict about my schedule and I really try to stick to that. But on top of that, like almost everything I do, like extracurricular wise, they're things that I enjoy. So it's never like I'm like dreading going to practice unless if it's like a conditioning day and like I know I'm going to be running a lot. But for the majority of the time, the things I do are things I want to do. And I feel like that just makes me more motivated to actually like do them. And like that allows me to do a lot of different things.
Totally. Yeah. Shout out Google Calendar. Google's not currently a sponsor of the podcast, but I'm gonna reach out to them. So
Yes.
I feel like the key there, I don't know, I was like hearing the word discipline when you were saying all that, like keeping a disciplined calendar, like having everything listed out like that. And I think I saw that like you're relatively new to flag. So was flag something that, you felt like you wanted to get involved in some kind of sport, or there was something about flag specifically that spoke to you and your discipline and like everything? I was gonna ask ChatGPT to like, what's a joke about flag football and psychology and chemistry, but I was like, I'm gonna spare Ella and not do that.
Thank you.
But I am just curious like how that came about.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, all through my life, I played sports. Like, I think my parents put me in basketball in like second grade. So I've kind of grew up with like that consistency of like having a practice to go to, having games. And then when I reached college, like, was accepted into Duke. And at that time, I wasn't playing a sport. So I'm like, all right, I'm just a student 100%. But then I did end up playing club basketball my first year. And
Mm.
I really liked that. But then going into my sophomore year, I actually had a friend who started our flag football team here at Duke. And she was like, "Oh, like you should just come out to one practice." I was really on the fence about even going to that practice because, I had like barely touched a football in my life. But
Mm.
obviously, I ended up going to the practice, and I'm super happy that I did because, like, I literally fell in love with flag football that day. I thought the sport was so fun. I enjoyed like, the running aspects of it, the athletic ability you needed to have to be able to play flag football, and like the learning curve that I kind of went through to get better at flag. Like it was hard, but it was super rewarding to see like how fast I could develop in the sport.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's interesting that you started out in basketball, and so like I've been lucky enough to talk to different folks who have kind of come to flag from different pathways.
Hmm.
And I was talking to Maxime Lavallee from Team Canada, and I usually end my podcast with like, okay, if you have a recommendation to anyone on like how to get involved in flag, what's your recommendation? And he said, play as many different kinds of sports as you can. And so I'm curious with that basketball background, do you feel like having that skill set and that experience has fed into your flag skills in any way, or are they just like totally different sports and you're like, Neil, what are you talking about?
No, I think any type of sports background, honestly, like would help anyone in flag football. Like I think just because like for any sport, you need to have some baseline athletic ability, and that's very translatable to flag football. Like even some specific skills, like I'm pretty tall, I'm 5'10", so like if there's a ball coming, my coach will like tell me to jump up and grab it like it's a rebound. So I feel like that's more of a direct like correlation between the two. Um, so I definitely feel like basketball has definitely helped me in some ways, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know if obviously like flag is having a real moment. And I think it was back in March, there was that Fanatics Flag Fest with like the NFL guys versus Team USA,
Hmm.
and Team USA just like absolutely crushed them. And it's like pretty obvious that the skill set for flag football in a lot of ways is pretty different from just like tackle gridiron
Hmm.
football. And so I feel like some of the skills in basketball, like hand-eye coordination, dexterity, like a lot of those skills might actually be more valuable on a flag football field. Just my observation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. I think you said that your friend brought you in, and
Hmm.
I think I saw in my research that the Duke University flag team, like it's just a club team at this point,
Hmm.
and it was only started, I think, like a couple years ago. And so I
Yeah.
am curious, like from your perspective as like boots on the ground, like what's it like being in a club program? Obviously the NCAA is looking at, making it a championship sport, and a lot of colleges are now adding varsity programs. Like, so for
Hmm.
you in the club world where maybe there's like less infrastructure, like what's that like?
Yeah, no, it's definitely been an interesting experience. So at Duke, there's a lot of different rules and regulations around like when you can become a club sport and what a club sport is. So for the past 2 years, we were just like a student organization. We still were a team. We played against different schools around us. We went to the Nurse Regional Championships twice. Um, but our school didn't provide us with much support. So we fundraised all our money that we used. Players paid out of pockets for jerseys, for traveling, tournament fees, etc. And our school didn't provide us with like an official practice space. So
Mm.
sometimes we play on NCCU's field. They're about a 10-minute drive away from us. There was some fields like downtown Durham that we would go to use. And even on campus, there's just some like open green space and we'd end up practicing there. So we definitely have to be very creative, but it was really cool to see everybody kind of like still playing flag football with us, even if like the conditions weren't the greatest or the prettiest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, so at that point, like again, now I'm just like sounding really ignorant, but like who's you said like sometimes we have to find this green space like here in downtown, and like who's literally like finding this and being like, Ella, we're meeting here. Like, is it you, or like is it a team effort?
Yeah, so the first year I joined, there was some different presidents and like vice presidents that like we kind of had voted and elected on to kind of make those big decisions, but they were also just students. And our coaches at the time were also students. So it was literally just like a bunch of 20-year-olds making these decisions, trying to make everything work. And at the end of the day, I mean, they did. Like we had a successful team, and now we're a club sport at Duke. So Duke is, providing us with an official practice space, turf space, and some more financial support.
Yeah, I mean, have has the university um been supportive, or has it been an uphill battle to try to persuade them that like you need to take flag seriously?
Well, it's been an uphill battle in terms of just becoming a club sport, but that's
Yeah.
just regular for any team that's trying to become a club sport. And in terms of us wanting to have conversations about flag football, flag football becoming a D1 sport, the school has not really been open to talking with us about it, even though we tried to. We think it's very important. We have some new connections coming in this year that we think will be able to kind of help us get our foot in the door to at least like have those conversations with like our athletic director.
Mm,
Because I would love to see flag football become a varsity D1 sport at Duke.
yeah. Well, if you, I guess I can look them up, but if you give me the athletic director's email, I'm happy to like write a letter in support, because, or just send them my podcast, because I feel like if you're not making flag football a varsity sport at this point, you're falling behind. And like you
Hmm.
look at all the metrics about flag football at a high school level, the fact that it's going to be at the Olympics in
Yeah.
2028, they're launching pro leagues next year. All of this to me, like if you're a prestigious premier university like Duke, it is time to offer a varsity program. So, like I said, happy to knock on some doors and write some letters on your behalf. I want to, speaking of the fact that flag football is really accelerating in popularity. I feel like it's even different than it was a couple years ago. I mean, how's that look for you? And your fellow teammates and everything at the club level. Now that football is having a moment, or flag football, and the reality is that I feel like you're really leaning into it in a cool way with like everything you're doing on social, with promoting it. So, like, what are you seeing about that? Does it make you feel like you're sort of getting in at the ground level and you want to work your way up? Or just like, what are you seeing in that?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for offering to write some emails to our AD. That's awesome.
Of course.
But in terms of like where flag football is right now, I think it's super exciting to see kind of like how it's been built up even over the past like year. I think there's so much opportunity within flag football, and I'm super excited to kind of be working on like being in that creator space right now with it because, I find flag football as such a fun sport. I think it's great. And if I had flag football in high school, that would definitely be something I would have pursued like in high school, like rather than, I don't know, maybe cross country or some other sport. So my main goal is really just to like make flag football more accessible to girls because, a lot of boys can like grow up playing football. They know a little bit more about the rules, but like I came into flag football not knowing much at all. So I really hope that flag football, the rules, kind of how it works, becomes more accessible to girls, even at a younger age, just so they have the option to play that sport if they want to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think at this point, like last time I checked, we were at 23 states that have officially sanctioned high
Mhm.
school girls flag football. So like it's all happening. But again, I feel like all these institutions and like I'm very pro academic, universities and all of that. But they're just slower, right? Like there's that
Yeah.
bureaucracy that I'm sure
Mhm.
I'm sure you're learning a lot about. So is flag like something that you like obviously like you're obviously very accomplished and like way smarter than I am. And so I'm sure you have like big dreams for what you're going to do with your degree. Do you see like flag staying part of your life, or is this like obviously just like a great outlet and great, experience for college, or do you see it as something that like you hope to continue post graduation?
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely thought a lot about this. I definitely want flag football to be a part of my life in the future. I don't know in what sense. I would love to keep playing, but at the same time, like there are so many other good players out there, but I still want to be involved in the flag football space to kind of like whatever degree possible. One of my former teammates, Hannah Kratt, she currently is playing for a team and she like her team won like the select bowl for USA flag football. So like I would love to still be involved in flag football, maybe play, maybe do more like on the working side, like logistic sides of it. But yeah, I definitely hope flag football is a part of my future.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, the cool part about Flag, in my experience, is that it's still like it's available at so many levels. So like I'm old and frail, but like I can still play a little bit in my like local rec league. So like
Hmm.
and there's some real like old old folks out there who are still playing. So I feel like
Yeah.
the community is just like so welcoming and like so open, and
Hmm.
there's like really no limit. I
Definitely.
mean, so since you played basketball as well as now flag, do you see a difference in the kind of community that like basketball is such an established sport and flag is still so open and new? It's
Hmm.
almost like still in its infancy in a lot of ways. Like, what have you seen about the flag community more generally, like given how involved you are, at the club level and
Yeah.
social?
Yeah. I mean, overall, I think everyone is very welcoming. I think everybody understands that it's such a new sport that you have people like me, who are just getting into flag like just now. So everyone's very like welcoming, willing to explain rules. Even just from going to different tournaments and seeing different teams, like some teams don't even have a coach and like it's, a bunch of girls coaching themselves who like just started playing flag football. So everyone's very patient with each other, willing to kind of explain the rules. Um, but at the end of the day, like everyone is there for a good time because, we are a club sport. So, we don't get scholarship for this. We're not getting paid or anything. Um, so everyone is playing purely just for the love of the sport, which I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. And something else that I also love about everyone I'm getting to talk to is how, like, Duke University, it will have flag as a varsity sport in the next 5 years. I'm just like really
Yeah.
confident about that. And it's really cool to think that, it's like steps on a ladder. And
Hmm.
you are like literally building that foundation that is going to enable the varsity program at some point and scholarships. So like people, someone out there who's listening to this, who might be whatever age is going to be able to get a scholarship at Duke because
Hmm.
of you. So I just think, like you said,
Yeah.
it's really beautiful. Um, so I know I promised like not to keep you for very long. So just a couple more questions, Ella.
For
I know
sure.
you're busy. Um, like what if you had like some tips, like besides obviously like Google Calendar and using that to maintain discipline,
Hmm.
like how do you, again, now I'm just like asking for myself, like how do you keep it all straight? Like how do you keep yourself like really like locked into everything that you're doing and the multitasking and everything? I know you said like it's not work because you enjoy it. Don't you ever want to be like, man, I wish I was just like on a beach and like not here? I'm just, yeah, what are your tips about that for student athletes?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think one of the biggest things is like, even if you have a lot of things you have to do, when you're doing one thing, give 100% to that one thing. So if you're in class, for example, pay full attention to the class. Don't scroll on your phone or try to do homework for a different class. Like, pay attention to the lecture, take notes, whatever, pay attention to that class. Then when you're at practice, give it 100% at practice because you only have so many practices, so you might as well give that one 100%. And I think that approach really helps to kind of like separate my time and just focus my mind on the thing I'm doing and kind of help me stay in the present moment.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you were talking and I was like literally taking notes on a piece of paper, which I have found like actually does help me kind of like stay
Hmm.
focused and totally locked
Yeah.
in. Um, and then finally, like I said, I like to ask everyone I bring on, like, what do you, if someone out there is 14 or 44 or whatever, like, what do you recommend for getting involved in flag and like how should they find, a program or something? What do you recommend?
Yeah, I think any flag football experience you can get is great. Like, I would just look on Google, like put in the city you live in and just say like flag football leagues near me and then maybe your age. Because I feel like right now there's so many popping up all over the states. Um, and just like reach out to them if they have the Instagram, like DM that Instagram. I would like 99% assume like that they would be more than welcome to have you just because flag is so new. Everyone's so welcoming to new people and like they just want to have fun and they want to help you learn and have fun. So just reach out to any program I feel like that's near you. I think that'd be my advice.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like Instagram's like the LinkedIn of flag football because
It seems like that, yeah.
like everyone I've gotten to talk to has been through a DM and Instagram.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, well, so Ella, like I said at the top, like you're doing some incredible stuff. I really love what you're doing on Instagram to promote education and resources about flag. Like I said, when, not if, but when Duke has a varsity program and scholarships, I think a lot of people will have you to thank for that. So really, really appreciate you hopping on. Like I said, I'd love getting to talk to folks like you. I think like as we watch the flag world continue to evolve, I'm definitely going to reach out again to bring you on for a part two.
great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Ella. Bye.
Thank you.